right, good evening. I am going to call the Mashpee School Committee regular business meeting to order of December 2017. Before we get started, the chairman is going to be participating remotely. I'm going to chair the meeting. Don, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can everybody hear Don?
Loud and clear.
Yep.
Yes, we can. All right.
All right. Well, good.
Fantastic. All right, the first order of business tonight is executive session to discuss strategy in regards to potential litigation and also to discuss strategy for collective bargaining. We need a motion to enter executive and to return to public session after that.
So moved. I move, God doesn't.
Yeah. We got a
Yeah.
motion by Nicole,
Second.
second by Jeff. Any discussion? Don?
Yes.
Oh, just wanted to make sure that we didn't have any discussion.
Oh, no. No
All right.
discussion.
Okay, Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
And
Don?
yes.
Yes. Everybody? Can we do, just because we do have some other people in the room, can we do one more comp check? So Don Myers is remote today. If you want to do a test, Don, to make sure everybody can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Everybody good back there? Can you hear Don?
Do I hear?
All right.
Can you hear me?
Fantastic.
All right. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item would be public comment, and it appears we do not have any public comment tonight. So we'll move on to the esteemed Mr. Frederick Hanna III for the Student Advisory Council report.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Good evening, everyone. Congratulations to the varsity football team on winning the Division VII Super Bowl for the third time in a row. It was a close game, fun to watch, and it was a phenomenal ending to a great season, which was capped off by the whole community being able to go up to Gillette and really have an amazing experience for the fans and the players as well, as I know someone will speak on this later on. But really just an unbelievable run by the football team, so I want to congratulate them. In regards to academic news, the National Honor Society hosted their annual blood drive this past week. There was a lot of participation, including 35 students who signed up to donate blood. Last night was the Program of Studies night, which coincided with a showcase of the music and art department. Families walked around to look at the student artwork and also got a chance to listen to some Christmas music, which was played by the students. Mr. Valstracci, his team, and the teachers did an excellent job being able to showcase to the incoming 7th graders and also the incoming 9th graders, even though they're transitioning from 8th grade to 9th grade. It gives them a unique experience to kind of interact with the teachers and get a chance to see like the different courses that they can take at the high school. So overall, it's a really nice night that's put on by the high school. This Saturday, the National Honor Society is hosting a Santa's workshop at the public library from 10 to 2 o'clock. Parents can drop off their kids to do arts and crafts and also do games as well. Yeah.
Drop off your
Yep.
kids?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Hannah.
All right, welcome. Mr. Looney and his marketing class have been doing an excellent job with the school store and the high school, and also with it being opened up during homeroom, and as well with the new store being opened up at the Commons. It's given the students an excellent opportunity to get a real life experience of what it's like to run a business. If you haven't had a chance, hopefully you can stop by and check out the store, because a lot of the clothing is designed by the students, and some work is also on showcase. So if you have a chance, hopefully you can stop by and take a look at that. Today at the high school, students were given the high five. Multiple students from different grades were given the High Five Award in recognition of their overall hard work and effort in different departments throughout the high school. In sports news, we have winter sports trials coming to an end. Girls basketball and boys basketball have had multiple scrimmages so far. The boys open up their season next week on Friday night with a big game against their local rival Falmouth. The girls are playing before, so hopefully you can attend and come out and support our high school teams. So that is it so far. I'd like to wish you all a safe and happy holiday as we head into the new year. So thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanna. Happy holidays to you as well. It's always good to hear,
Thank you.
the students' perspective on the accomplishments and the achievements of what's going on in the school, and especially with the football team. Very excited about that, and we can't wait to hear from the members of the team that are here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody got anything for Frederick?
No.
All right. All right. Next on the agenda, we have representative for Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe. I do not believe we have one here tonight. So we'll move on to the update from Mashpee Middle High School with Mr. Balstracci.
I think Fred stole most of my thunder here tonight with our update. I'm just going to pull this out so we can give it to our kids. So before we get into the academic extracurricular items, I do want to take some time to publicly recognize the folks behind me. First and foremost, to be able to compete at that high of a level and to get to Gillette Stadium not once, not twice, but 3 times consecutively is something that speaks volumes about the program, about the students, the work and effort that they put in, the coaching staff, and the countless amount of hours that they put in behind the scenes to make these opportunities available for our student athletes. So to go up to Gillette last Saturday and get that victory was something really special. It was the first time since the new playoff format was created by the MIAA that any team has won 3 in a row. So the first team in the modern era of MIAA tournament football to win 3 in a row, which is really exciting. Coach Treveri, I've been around football a long time as a former athlete myself and coaching with him for 8 years prior to my position now. I've never seen a better coach who cares more about kids and gives them the best opportunity possible. And he's surefire State Hall of Fame coach moving forward. And we're really excited to introduce them to you this evening. Tonight we have the bulk of our seniors and as well as our captains who really led this team. And we have about 25 kids that suit up every week, 9 through 12. And what they're able to accomplish on the field speaks volumes to them as young men. The teamwork that they put forth, taking care of each other, supporting one another through ups and downs. If you were able to watch the game Saturday, you saw a little bit about the adversity that they went through. It was a really close game. They weren't used to those throughout the year, and they really stepped up. And it wasn't just the same kids. It was a multitude of student athletes that stepped up big time in that game, and we're excited to introduce them to you tonight. So they're going to be able to come up and kind of give you the show, and then I'll finish up with some brief notes. But we have our seniors and senior captains, Ian Ahern, Ben Bonenberger, Torrin Burton, Jake Johnston, and John McNamara, as well as Coach Treveri. So if you guys come on up, and we'll give you a little opportunity to talk a little bit about your season and what it means to you. I'll bring the trophy up so you can all behold this. And I like to hold it, and we'll let the guys go.
All right, so this year we had a great season. On behalf of the Mashpee football team, I think we just all want to thank the community and all the schools for all the support they gave us. Friday, the day before the game, we went to the Washington School here and the Casey Coon School, where the young kids all cheered us on before the big game, and I thought that was a really cool experience to have the young kids show their support for us. And without all the support from the community, I don't think 13-0 and state championships would be a thing, because having the fans at our game, being there for us the whole way, is definitely something we appreciate a lot. And to finish off the season with a great year, finishing us off as seniors, winning 3 in a row, is definitely a great accomplishment, and we just want to thank the community and everyone else that has helped out with that.
It's definitely a way to end our season, 13-0, winning 3 state championships in a row. Football means a lot to this program, the school, and the community.
Did you
yeah,
say
definitely.
your name though, Torrin? Did you tell
everybody-
them who you were?
Oh, what?
Oh yeah, I'm Torrin Burton.
All right, my name's Ben Bonenberger. I just love the way the community rallies around us. Like at the game, it was great because Jake was in the huddle. We couldn't even hear him. Everybody's so loud, screaming. It's just stuff like that that gets us going, motivates us. All the teachers in the hallway, great game. I hope you guys win, things like that. Just all around support. Mashpee Pops donated money to help out with our rings, which is great. It just shows that the community's really appreciates what we do and they're loyal. So we have great coaches and great teachers and administration, so we're just glad for that.
I'm Ian Ahern, and I just want to say there's a testament to how great the community is the first thing I did Sunday morning when I got home is I watched the game on TV, and you could hear the announcers just saying that the Mashpee fans were the best they'd seen all day. They were the most respectful, they were the best cheering, they weren't saying anything negative. I think that really speaks to what kind of community we have here, and we're just great fans and great people that always come out and support us.
I'm John McNamara. I'd also like to thank the community because they were great coming every game, getting really loud in Gillette. And I enjoyed going down to like the younger schools and having like people I haven't seen in many years like support me and say they were like watching the whole time. So yeah, it was great for the community to come together like that.
All right.
How about Coach?
I think just to echo what they had to say, it's a top to bottom thing here. It's everybody in the schools. It's the teachers in the school, the custodians in the school, superintendent, assistant superintendent, everybody in between. It is a great honor to coach here. We have great kids here. I think the bigger thing for me is they represent us the right way. I got an email from our opposing coach. I got the same thing in 2011. We won a Super Bowl. The one thing he said is you're a model for everybody else, for us and everybody else at this level, because your kids do it the right way. What he spoke about was the handshake line. Our kids looked them right in the eye, had nothing but positive things to say. There wasn't anything in the game that you could ever say it was a cheap shot or dirty. Our kids have done this now for every year, and it's not easy. It's a different world now where kids are much more individualistic. It's not easy to get kids on the same page, and these guys have done it. It's incredibly difficult to win here in a lot of ways because of our numbers. I think we dressed most of the time about 26, 28 kids at the most. There was practically less than 22. We had coaches in positions and trash cans and the such. But in the end, that only makes it better for these guys to understand that you overcome adversity, overcome obstacles. And they've done it all the time, and they do it the right way. And they've done it for a long time. And I think in a lot of ways, I've spoken to reporters, it's how kids are raised in the community. It's their parents, it's their extended family, it's the people around them in a small community, and it's the values they bring that give us the results that we have because they understand what it takes to win. And this is just a modicum for what's going to happen in life. It's a microcosm for their, these guys will all be successful, whatever it is they do. But again, it stems from the fact that they were raised the right way, and the community's always backed them. I think the best part of my week, and it's an awful week for me as an AD. It's constant. It's a lot of hours. I probably haven't been home before 8 o'clock the last 2 or 3 weeks with this stuff. But the best part of that week, there's no doubt, was going down to the Casey Coombs School and seeing little kids and up top and streamers. And you'll take away a lot of things. These guys will take a lot of things from teammates in Gillette. But my guess is they won't forget that either. That's important to me, and that's important to these guys. They grew up here. All these guys went to school here, grew up here, and that's kind of getting back to their roots. It was a great thing that Casey Coombs and Quashnet did for our kids, and it is much appreciated from my end, all our coaching staff's end. Support everywhere, whether it's there, the financial support from the district and from the taxpayers. It's a great community. This is my only job. This is where I started, and I can't be any happier for what these guys have accomplished, but the community in general and the backing we've received. Thank you as a school committee as well.
Thank you, Coach.
And just one other thing before I let them go, every one of these seniors and captains is an honor roll student as well the first term.
Awesome.
So these guys are not only working for athletics, but they're putting their academics as a top priority, and all of them are going to be going to top flight schools come next fall. So we're very excited, and thank you guys for everything you do for our school.
Thank you.
And before you run away,
I'll keep that
the
trophy.
school committee had anything they wanted to say to the coach or these fine gentlemen.
Well, I just want to say congratulations, and it's really impressive what you guys were able to do, and also I'm just really proud of the people you are, and I think more than the championship itself, it means a lot to me to hear that you're role models for my children in this community. So I encourage you, when you go off to do all the fabulous things you're going to do after graduation, to go visit those schools again when you come back, and keep going in to see those kids, because you make a very strong impression. So congratulations.
I can't add anything on top of what Nicole just said. Congratulations on a spectacular season, and I personally apologize that I was unable to make the game. Believe me, I wanted to be there, so congratulations.
Yeah, I agree. I had some things to say, but Nicole said it 10 times better than it would have ever come out of my mouth. So, no, congratulations. It really is a testament to the hard work that all of you have put in, especially, the students and everything you're doing academically. And one thing I heard out of every last one of you is community, and that's awesome to hear. So, congratulations, Coach, and the rest of the team. Don? Don, you got anything to say?
Wait, there's one more.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you guys did give me a little bit of heart palpitations at the game, but I'm glad that it turned out great, and I'm so proud of the accomplishments that you guys were able to achieve here. And I'm also quite proud of how the town of Mashpee was represented at Gillette Stadium at the game. So it's great to see the community out there. It's great to have wonderful student athletes and a fantastic coaching staff. So a great honor, and you guys deserve it. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Don't forget the trophy.
You don't want to forget that.
I'll hold the trophy. I got a lot of those in my office now. It's great. So, obviously, the Super Bowl was a very exciting time for us. But the signs of a thriving school, I believe, are thriving academic programs, thriving extracurricular and arts programs, and thriving athletics programs. So we've been doing a whole lot with that, and there is a number of things to quickly go over with you that some of them Freddie already went over, so I won't be too redundant. But just on the academic end, we had the highest number of any year that we've had in the first term of honor roll students, grades 7 through 12. In the middle school, we had over 130 students on the honor roll, high honors and honors in term 1. And it's really just a great testament to the work our staff's doing and to the effort our young students are doing and putting into their daily effort classes. Other academic news, as Freddie said, we had our term 1 high fives. Every department per grade level has a high five, and that person is identified not only for achievement, but for hard work, dedication, enthusiasm for subject and content area. And that was a great morning. If you go on Twitter, you can see that great picture. They get T-shirts. They wear them around school. Students are high-fiving each other throughout the day. It's a really neat recognition, and that was this morning. We also had 25 students identified for receiving the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. And that is for high achievement on the MCAS. Behind me, 2 of them, Ian Ahern and Torrin Burton, both received that. And I do want to take just a moment publicly to recognize all these students because the effort they put in deserves such. Ian Ahern, Jack Baker, Shyla Bingham Hendricks, Brooke Bridges, Maxwell Burke, Torrin Burton, Brianna Cheatham, Sydney Costa, Roman Zulev, Jaden Uranius, Maya Fudala, Ashley Geisler, Theodore Joyson, Miranda Gouveia, Megan Howard, Celia Krefter, Shane LaCroix, Nathan McCarthy, Kevin Poltz, Alexia Santos, Danielle Shea, Remy Shea, Grace Shin, Joshua Vinitsky, and Grace Whipper. And these 25 students will be recognized before holiday break where we have a luncheon, so keep your ears and eyes open for that. It's a really great luncheon that we have to honor them for that. The John and Abigail Adams Scholarship provides free tuition to any state college that participates in the process. So these students have earned that recognition, that distinction, and hopefully it'll save them some money come tuition time when they enter college. Some final academic items. We had over 50% of our seniors this year apply early action, which is the highest number we've ever had. We had 40 students applied for the November 1st, and we have another 35 students that are applying for our December 1st and January 1 early action deadlines. So the college-going culture is something that's really thriving. And lastly, with the academic piece, our Wapanak language course, which is in its first year of existence, is really starting to take shape and form and be really enthusiastic. And we're excited to welcome local media outlets from the radio and Mashpee Enterprise to come on December 11th to kind of interview those students and staff and kind of get an idea of where it's headed. But we're really excited about that. We had a great professional development on Monday where Jesse Little-Baird came in and talked about the language. And it was really exciting and enthusiastic, and our staff is really eager to continue to grow it. We talked about academics and athletics, but a thriving arts program is also vitally important to our school. If any of you had the chance this past weekend, although we did have the Super Bowl, we also had several performances of Little Women by the Blue Falcon Theater Company. Great performance. Mrs. Santos' daughter was a star in that show. And it was just not an easy show to do, and the kids just nailed it. And they're always outstanding, and they're already doing auditions this week for the spring musical, which will be The Little Mermaid come March. Our program of studies night and art and music showcase last night was a great success. We had well over 100 people at the art and music night, and then another strong showing for our program of studies night. So to see the community come out and engage and listen to our students sing and perform, and it was really an outstanding evening. And we also had yesterday 10 Mashpee High School seniors who were identified by the Mashpee Men's Club to go to their annual luncheon. And they sit on a panel at the Senior Center, and then they have a beautiful lunch at New Seabury. And it was a great chance for the Men's Club, among others, to get to know our students, what their plans are, what their experience has been like. And every one of them, and we didn't rehearse this, but every one of them talked about how positive their experience has been in the Mashpee Public Schools, not just at the high school level, but their entire experience through, which is really a great testament to the hard work that our staff does on a daily basis. And then lastly, two final things. The Falcon Nest Annex, I know that Fred mentioned that. The Mashpee Commons and Mary Deer, along with Mike Looney from the high school, have a tremendous agreement in place to be able to have a storefront throughout the holidays through January. It's on 10 Market Street, right near what was Cape Kids. It's right across the street from Lane Bryant. And we have clothing on sale, hats, gloves, jackets, sweatshirts, you name it. We also have a number of pieces of student artwork and things coming out of the Technology Center that are there for purchase. We're also making custom orders for those who need certain things made, whether it be glassware or any other type of trinkets you might want. So please feel free to stop by there, promote that. It's open daily from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we're getting that staffed, and it's being staffed primarily by students during that class of marketing. So it's a great experience for them, hands-on, to learn.
I'm working on Saturday. Just
Excellent.
saying, I'm working on
You name it, we got them.
Saturday. I'll be there.
And then lastly, something that Matt didn't get to mention yet, but we're really excited about through the work of Mrs. Bartlett in creating our partnership with the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe. On December 19th, we will host the first ever Mashpee High School girls and boys basketball games at the Tribal Government Center. And that's an exciting time for us. It's at 5 is the girls' game, and at 6:30 is the boys' game. And before the boys' game, if you get a chance to go, the Red Hawks singers will be drumming. Many of you have seen that at graduation, but it's a great opportunity to join us to really have a good community building opportunity for our students. And so that will conclude the quick update from me. I know it's never quick, but I'll take any questions that you may have.
Doesn't need to be quick. That was some really good stuff, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the schools right now, and even Mashpee TV is a great outlet as well. If you can't make certain things, I know when you talked about the men's club, that was there's a video out there with all of the students talking and in regards to what they want to do and what they've accomplished, and it's a great video. So they've been a helpful outlet for events that we cannot attend for whatever reason. So thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the minutes from the November 8th meeting. So if
I move to
Get a
approve the
motion.
minutes of November 8, 2017.
motion by Jeff, do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Nicole. Are there any questions? Hearing none. Nicole?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right. Next on the agenda will be the report from the superintendent, Superintendent DeBoer.
So we have in the packet Principal LaBelle's report from the Coombs School. He has 421 students. Just some of the names to highlight quickly. Margie Mitchell, these are staff members. Margie Mitchell for her work on the Fill-A-Van and the annual turkey trot. Again, thank you to Jessie Little-Dobaird for her presentation to that staff. Katie Martin is recognized for her arrangement of Thornton Burgess field trips. Jen Kenny provided a Lexia workshop to staff during a PLC, and then Kim Palmer, the art teacher, recognized for scheduling the Passing the Tech Torch program, which is a collaboration with the high school and the Coombs School. And I just want to highlight that on Friday night is the Giving Tree event at the Coombs School from 6 to 8 p.m. And that's a great event for providing supports to our families in need in the community. Would Principal LaBelle like to add anything?
The only thing I'd like to say is that
You need a microphone.
I need a microphone. Is that loud enough? The one thing that I just wanted to add is that it's very apparent as you walk through the halls of our school that the interaction with parents, the community, it's nonstop in the building. Our kids are either leaving, going on these field trips to take advantage of the resources that we have. I'm excited that we're actually looking to further the types of field trips that we're going. There was just so many great resources that we hadn't tapped into before that we are starting to tap into, and I do thank Katie Martin for part of that. We've got the U.S. Coast Guard back in our building doing STEM projects with grade 2, which is super exciting. And we're kind of flipping it over, and I said, well, can we come to your base in the spring so we can see how you are applying all those concepts. So we're going to be going to the base in the fall, in the spring, and enjoying, their environment. I also just want to thank the police department. I've been asking them to come make a presence. I know Officer Calhoun is quite busy, and we do enjoy when he comes by. I just want to do a shout out to Mike Assad, who makes it a point now that he's on the day shift to come by and swing by. He's real popular when he swings by our recesses, and I just love having that presence in the building. It's great for our kids to see the police in that light, and even from the fire department and our October-November relationship we had with them with the fire prevention. It's just been really a revolving door of community members in and out of our school, and it's all been positive. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Just to follow up, if you ever go on the turkey trot, it's so nice when they go by the police station and they're all out there high-fiving the kids, and the firemen are there too. It's a really nice, welcoming feeling. And one other thing with his school, with Kim Palmer, she's partnered with Deb Troyanis at the high school, and so the students, Kim's students, drew pictures of these monsters, color and all of that. Then the pictures went up to the high school, and they created them in clay and painted them. They're on display up at the high school, and they're going back to deliver the end product to the littler students, which I think is a really unique partnership. So it's kind of creative.
Awesome.
Can you put the date out again for the Giving Tree event?
Friday night,
Friday.
This
the
Friday?
8th, from 6 to 8. And then we have Principal O'Brien's report for the Quashnet School, 586 students. She would like to acknowledge the Falmouth Elks Club as part of an annual tradition and partnership with the school. They provide every grade 3 student with a dictionary, and we very much appreciate that. She also wanted to acknowledge Mrs. Hill for coordinating the Young People's Concert in Barnstable. That's also an annual event for our 4th graders, and very much appreciated. They had a great Veterans Day event, which I think I might have talked about previously, but the teachers that really work hard on that, Mrs. Wonder, Mrs. Pagano, Mrs. Arsenault, Mrs. Ristalis, Mrs. Blunt, Mrs. Richards, Mrs. Hill, Mrs. Boyd, and Mrs. Brown. And then thank you to Colonel Art Wonder, who served as the host and for that event. And it's very important to us that we connect with our veterans and do everything that we can to make our military feel valued. So it's wonderful. And some of her upcoming events, which it's everybody's upcoming event, but Mashpee Christmas Parade is this Saturday, 5:30 to 6:30. It's going opposite to what it's done in the past, starting in Deer Crossing. But what's important is we estimate at around 6:15 when it ends at the bandstand, which is in the Commons. There's going to be a planned huge celebration to honor the football team. So hopefully everybody can be part of that. Another annual event at the Quashnet School is the Gingerbread Village that the classrooms and the families create. So that will be on display from the 11th through the 15th. That's next week. And then on the 14th is a family pasta dinner with gingerbread cookie decorating night, which is also the time they most encourage families to come in to enjoy the village. And then she has an upcoming National Honor Society induction in December.
On the 18th, there is a correction there.
On the 18th, okay. Did you make that adjustment because of the...
Yes.
So kudos to Principal O'Brien. It was originally going to be on the 19th, which will conflict with the basketball games at the Tribal Government Center, so she has graciously changed her date, so thank you. Would you like to add anything? All right, we have the report of Principal Balstracci, so I won't repeat too much since he's gotten most of it out there. 736 students currently enrolled, 7 through 12. Thanking the Key Club for donating Thanksgiving dinners to the many families in need. He already talked about the Falmouth Nest Annex. He talked about the three-peat, and we talked about the blood drive. I just want to shout out, I know he mentioned a few of the participants in Little Women, but I want to acknowledge all of them: Alexia Santos, Sydney Pinhack, Anna Jocelyn, Erin Smith, Grace Antis, Ambrosia Ward, Serena Tripp, Patrick Flynn, Gavin Wills, Aidan Gaddu, and William Henley were all actors that we saw. And then the stage crew and extras: Teva Bonfleck, Micah Bellevue, Celeste Bold, Caroline Henley, Rhiannon Raymond, Zoe Squelia, Peter DeFrancesco, Jonah Erdman, and Ryan O'Neill. And none of those plays can happen without the people behind the scenes, so kudos to those students that handle that. And then tomorrow night, what's tonight, Wednesday? Yes. Tomorrow night is the sports recognition night for the fall, 6 to 7:30. Is that correct? Right?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for
I have
anything?
one. Wasn't there some kind of coffee house that was supposed to happen in December? That was last
Last night, yeah.
That was a young music showcase. There'll be more coffee houses in the winter and spring.
Okay.
Yeah, there was plenty, like it was the chorus, the a cappella group, the jazz band. It wasn't,
Artwork.
yeah, it wasn't kids getting up like the other ones.
Okay.
Right.
But there will be more.
We also have the report of Special Ed Director Dr. Curley. And if you notice, there's 282 students with IEPs in comparison to a year ago. At that time was 301. Any questions on anything that was there?
Nope.
Okay, some shout outs from Athletic Director Matt Treveri's report. The Fall South Shore League All-Stars in girls soccer: Emily Franks, Brooke Bridges, Katie Wellington. Cheerleading is Sophia Costa. Field hockey: Shyla Hendricks, Emma Weiss, and Tara Palermo. Boys soccer: O'Dane Scale, Shane LaCroix, Jack Daigneault, Chris Hutchenreiter. And then in football, probably most of the ones that were here. Anyway, Ben Bonenberger, Jake Johnston, Johnny McNamara, Ian Ahern, Cameron Kurgo, and Xavier Gonzalez were all recognized as South Shore League All-Stars. Just to add a piece about Jake Johnston, when we did go to the men's club yesterday, and they were all talking about all the activities they're involved with, and his only shout out to himself was, well, I play football. He never acknowledged until later on someone added that he was the quarterback, which is, they're all key positions, but it's just sort of how humble they are and how they are a team. They're not one standout over another. So that was really nice, and it was something people noticed. So next you have enrollments, which we've sort of already talked about, but the total is 1,643 for November. Any questions on that sheet?
Nope.
And next you have multiple sheets of activities. You will get the weekly email that will at least keep you up to date on a weekly basis. Also this week in the Enterprise, which you do have, is the article that I do monthly that has a lot of good information in that. So that's going to go home on Friday to families as well. I do have a letter to read as an acknowledgement. I will not read too slowly, but it's a really good one. It's dated November 28th. Dear young men and women of Quashnet School, I received the extremely large box of Halloween candy today in the mail. I must say that was very generous of all of you. I would like to thank you and extend the gratitude of the men and women I work with. Additionally, all of us here in, and I'm probably not going to say Arafjan, I can say Kuwait, but I'm not. Arafjan. Very good. Kuwait. Enjoy reading the personal letters that you've taken the time to write. Many of you expressed appreciation to service members like myself for deploying, but I must tell you, it is an honor and a privilege for us to have the support of our young population. With your generosity in mind, I will attempt to answer some of your questions posed from your letters. My name is Ross Robinson. I grew up in Phillipsburg, Kansas. That is a little tiny town almost smack dab in the center of the United States. I graduated high school in the year 2000 and immediately enlisted in the United States Air Force. I became a member of the Tactical Air Control Party. Anyway. TACP. Career field. We are Air Force members who live with the Army and coordinate airstrikes from the front lines of a battle. On September 11th, 2001, everyone's lives changed and myself and many other service members left home to serve overseas. From then until 2012, I deployed 5 times. I supported operations in both Iraq and Afghanistan. I completed my college degree in 2010, which allowed me to apply for a commission in the Air Force. This means that I was able to transition from an enlisted member to an officer. In 2012, I did just that. Since then, I have deployed 2 more times. Now I am a captain, and I work for the highest command in Iraq and Syria. On a personal note, I live in Las Vegas. My wife's name is Emily, and I have a daughter named Isabella in 3rd grade and a son, Dalton, in 1st grade. I do miss them very much, but I am also proud that they serve as well by being strong when I have to be away. Many of you have questions about how things are over here. We are primarily here to help the Iraqi people defend themselves from a terrorist organization called ISIS. I was here in 2014, and I can tell you now, in 2017, the Iraqi people have done a phenomenal job. The American people military help them in 2 primary ways. We train them in how to be a great military, and we provide kinetic support. What does kinetic support mean? Kinetic support means helping them with artillery and bombs. My job is to control our airstrike and artillery support. For reasons of secrecy, I'm sure a bunch of intelligent young men and women, such as yourselves, can understand. I cannot elaborate on the progress of the war. I'm sure if you ask your teachers, however, they will be able to look in the news sources and provide you with information. On a whole, we have been very successful, and the Iraqi people are free from their previous oppressors. I hope this answered some questions you had. Again, I cannot thank you enough for your generosity and time you've shown. I would like to leave you with one bit of advice. Your education is the most important thing you can get. No matter what you want to do when you grow up, education is the most valuable thing you can have. It is men and women like you who will take the reins of leadership from myself, your parents, and your teachers. So learn well, continue to be kind and generous, and keep asking questions. My finest regards, Captain Ross Robinson, United States Air Force. That was a nice letter. Isn't that awesome?
Thank you for taking the time for that.
Awesome letter.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you for sharing.
definitely.
Yes. It was wonderful.
Just received another letter today in the email, and it's just so moving how much they appreciate what we get. This letter, though, ended with, "I'm sure the faculty won't appreciate it, but I hope you have a white Christmas." So, it was very, very, very wonderful.
Actually, I think the faculty would appreciate it. I might not, but they will. Thank you. And then, all right, so next up is the FY19 calendar. I believe you have a colored version at your spot. Hi, Dawn.
You okay?
Hi.
You good? Go ahead. Yes, Frederick, go.
Thank you.
So on the calendar, this is for FY19, and which is 185 workday for the teachers per the contract. And in purple, in what you see, are the 4 professional days. And then we have half-days placed, the vacations are placed, and with the Quashnet School project and the timing of it, we wanted, even though we really want students to come back before Labor Day, this is not the year for that, because they're going to need every amount of time, particularly the teachers will be getting back in there later. So this is one year that we've left the start for students to be the Tuesday after Labor Day, which still does put us at June 18th for an ending date for students. If we had the students come back the 2 days in August, we would have ended on June 14th, which is a lot of pressure if there's a snow day, because no one likes the one Monday. But anyway, that is why students, we were proposing that they do not come back until the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Don, I'm assuming you have a copy of this in front of you?
Yep, I'm looking at it.
Okay. Does anybody have anything on it? Questions or comments?
I'll have the same comment I had last year, that I'm not a fan of having a professional day before a 3-day weekend.
Yes, so the only one that you see there is not something we control. It's the All Cape Day. And
I know, you said that last
I
year.
am not in favor of that day either. We could choose not to participate in the All
But I
Cape
don't think
Day
that's a good idea. Yeah.
and schedule it, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I understand. No, I get the
counselors-
importance of it. I just think it's
Right.
a terrible time to have a professional day.
Well,
We can share that with the collaborative, though. Nicole can certainly share it with them, and I can at my curriculum meetings with the collaborative.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
and I think from a family's perspective, not your family's, but a family's perspective, that gives them a 4-day weekend. So that's
that's
a
true.
good thing for them.
And probably by early October, everyone needs that.
All right, if there's no other comments, if we have a motion to approve the calendar, we can take that now. Anybody?
I move to approve the draft 2018-2019 calendar.
All right, motion by Nicole. Have a second?
Second?
Second by Don. Any
So
questions?
Are we
comments?
approving this as a final?
It is being approved as,
If you approve it,
Yes.
it becomes the final.
Becomes
it
the
would
final?
become the final, yes. So we have,
Oh, I'm sorry, I moved to approve the draft as
as final,
I gotcha.
and that was seconded, so any discussion?
So really the only change here is when the administration comes back, right?
Well, they,
Compared to this year?
well, they actually came back on the Monday in August. They came back on that same Monday this year.
Okay, so there's really no change there.
That's correct.
Okay.
Do you have a concern?
So the teachers are coming back, I'm sorry, everyone's coming back, not, gosh darn it. The faculty and teachers are coming back on the 27th of August for a day, then there's nothing, then another day, and then there's, I'm just trying to make sure I understand this. They're not coming back for a week, they're coming back Monday and Wednesday of the last week of August?
That's correct. The additional PD day this year would have been that middle day, that 185 days. And also, just from some of the feedback, the first day we're back, which is the 27th, is district-wide. We're all together. We will have some guest speakers, including members of the tribe. And then the second PD day is school-based. And I think by having a day in between, it just kind of eases back the
No, I'm with you. I'm just trying to
routine.
understand it. And
That's
then,
it.
and is this changed because of the new contract? Or
No,
is
we've
this-
always pretty much had 2 PD days at
Yeah.
least
Okay.
before August. Last year, we had the 3 because we had Alice training as well.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
All right.
And my only question would be, and I would assume because we're here voting on it, that this has been run by the teachers union. And
So I sent it out to all teachers this year and asked for any feedback they had. It was a mixture in terms of the only question I got from anybody was the PD days being together
okay.
or separated.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Nicole?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the Falcon Nest Annex. I really don't have anything else to add because Principal Balstracci did a great job. We're just very grateful to Mashpee Commons for offering this opportunity, and we're really hoping to develop a more permanent partnership. I think it's a win-win for both sides. Obviously, we're hoping not to have to pay rent, but anyway, gifts in kind are appreciated. But anyway, we just see some great potential for it to continue to blossom. It's kind of been a last minute, and kudos to Mr. Looney for really going above and beyond, getting everything there, getting the logistics and everything. And a lot of volunteers. We did put it out to our Southport Falcons, and several people have picked up a couple of the 2-hour blocks of time to volunteer. And right, and then different classrooms at the high school are also.
And I don't want to step on the marketing class, but I'd be more than happy to volunteer.
Oh, perfect. You're not stepping on anyone's feet.
Throw me in,
We'd love
Coach.
to have you.
Yeah.
It's my Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm coming
We're
by.
trying to get whatever Super Bowl celebration sweatshirt, T-shirts to
Oh,
be
there
there
you go,
by
yeah.
the parade route because it's
Baseball hats, that's what
she keeps saying that.
So let me know when I'm working, Mr. Balstracci.
Well, actually, Mrs. Hannon has some kind of a spreadsheet she keeps on that. So
Perfect.
I will let Gail know that you want to volunteer. Okay. All right, on the FY 19 budget, the only thing that, which we'll be discussing it more on the 20th, is just a reminder based on the charter, and we have to publish our narrative in the newspaper. So it's, according to the charter, at least 21 days before the meeting at which the school committee is scheduled to vote on its final budget request, the school committee shall cause to be published in a local newspaper a general summary of its proposed budget, which shall include a consolidated report of proposed expenditures by educational level and program. So backing that in, what we have is that the public hearing is January 3rd, and your vote is January 17th. So Gail has it being in the December 22nd enterprise is when it has to go in, which is usually, we have to get it to them a week ahead of time. So that's something that Paul and I work on together, but we can definitely make sure we send it out. And, you know, we're meeting on the 20th, so there needs to be a little bit of clarity as to how that's going to go. But we'll figure that out.
Okay.
Dawn?
And Patty, you said we have to vote on it. What was the date? Was that in January or February?
January 17th, according
Is
to
that
Gail.
According to Gail, okay. That seems earlier. I thought we normally voted in February.
I could double check on it, but
We'll we have the 18th meeting as well, and we'll clarify all the schedule. But I thought that very quickly after the 17th we have to have it to the finance committee, I believe, right? Like on the 20th of January or something.
right.
Everything's pushed back a lot earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I'm not mistaken, it was noted earlier in
Yeah.
one of the meetings that Paul had said it's even earlier this year than it has been the year before, which was earlier than the year before that.
Okay.
So next year we'll be voting in December, I'm sure.
So when, Lisa?
So when
So I
you
guess
see,
The question is, what budget are you going to be publishing?
so the finance goal working group, I believe we're meeting on the 18th.
18th.
And so there has to be some conversation around what is going to be the budget you vote on. We've already submitted a budget to the town manager, but that was not the school committee's budget. So I think personally I want our narrative in the paper to match what the school committee's budget's going to be.
I thought we did submit the school committee's budget.
We didn't technically. I'll talk about all this.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
working group
Well,
narrative.
when Rodney looked at me in the meeting and asked me, he said, is this your budget?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh.
You want to
So-
say that again for Don?
So, we had the original one that was in, what's the acronym?
Munis.
Munis. And then we voted to send the level services budget. And so now you guys are going to decide what we're going to submit, or what you're going to share.
Well, we're not deciding. I mean, that's voted on by the committee.
Okay,
I mean,
that's what I
we don't even vote until January, but unfortunately, you're required to submit a budget to the newspaper within that time period prior to, and there's nothing that says the budget can't change between that submission and the final vote. And as a matter of fact, the budget may change at the final vote. You know, on the 17th of January. So.
Did you get that, Don?
I got it. So it sounds like on the 20th, we're going to decide which or what will be submitted to the paper?
No, because it's got to go in there on the 22nd, and I know they need like a lead time. I always have to submit things on a Monday. Latest is
So
Tuesday. But
wouldn't we be submitting what the committee has currently voted to recommend?
yeah, I think that's what's going to end up. Our narrative is going to have to match that because there wouldn't have been, to my knowledge, any change. I do know that the town manager is holding a department head meeting on December 13th. We happen to have our MTSS presentation that day, but our business manager, Paul Funk, is going to attend that meeting, as I understand it, that is when you're being given the budget that the town manager is recommending.
We'll be told.
Yeah.
We'll be giving the
You said that's
packet.
December 13th?
Yes, December 13th. I believe it's at 9 is when he does his department head meeting, so all of you could pop in if you'd like. But anyway, Paul Funk will be there. That was the
Okay.
meeting I went to last year, where you received the packet, no, and then it was the .14.
Okay.
There are sometimes major developments. that
Yes, there is.
Yes.
That's why I had to make sure Mr. Funk was there. He doesn't normally work on that day, but he's coming.
Well, we appreciate it.
I do too. All right, any other
Thank
questions
you.
on that?
Good.
All right, so next up is I'm going to provide an update on the working groups that are moving forward with school committee goals. There are members of the school committee on each of the working groups.
Patty, I think
I'm sorry.
there's a few things before that, aren't there?
What did I miss?
Nope, we're on track.
Are you on this? which one?
9.8. You're looking at the
I'm sorry,
revised.
I'm at the old,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm on the
Okay.
previous screen.
Sorry.
Apologies.
That's all right. So just to do a recap, one of the goals is to develop a strategic financial roadmap for fiscal planning. The group that is working on that includes myself, Dr. Hanscom, Paul Funk, George Schmidt, and Jeff Gorman. We have had one meeting on the 31st of October, and then there was another meeting on the 2nd of November, but I believe Mr. Gorman was not able to attend. But what we have, we've set up a series of steps that we are working on. You want me to read those to you?
No, but I
want me
did
to?
have a offline meeting to get caught up, if I can add a couple
Okay,
things.
yes.
With Mr. Funk.
Yep.
I don't want to step on you though if you're not done.
No, so, 1, 2, 3, 4. At the first meeting, there's about 13 steps that we came up with, including which I think I added afterwards, creating a Mashpee Education Foundation. And then at the meeting that Mr. Gorman wasn't present at, we discussed sort of some planned expenditures that are currently scheduled to be charged against choice funds that really are part of a level service budget, and kind of a list of expenditures that in our mind upgrade our current services. And that's all I have, so yes. And our next meeting for that committee is the 18th.
18th. And I caught up with Mr. Funk in the interim so that I could get a download on the meeting that I missed. And we had some other discussions, and one of the big things we talked about was the schedule. I mean, it's clear that we need to have a set budget schedule, that we know every single little itty-bitty detail that we have to, what wicket we need to meet, because we keep missing the wickets, and we need to make sure we hit them. Because right now, we're going to put a budget in the paper that technically has not been voted on by the committee as a whole. Because I don't believe we provided guidance to Paul for how to move the budget, but I don't believe we voted to accept it, as far as I remember. There
No,
was
but
no
we
vote
could,
taken.
we can make sure that that's in that newspaper publication, that it is not the
Oh,
officially
right.
voted
I mean, I don't know what. Yeah,
school
exactly.
committee
I'm just saying, but
budget.
there should be a way that we can meet all these deadlines without having to, because I think part of our problem this year is that we had information go to the decision makers on the town, and now we've moved away from that decision, and we're causing angst, with Mr. Collins.
Well, because we're not really being given the level service budget we were told to turn in.
Oh yes, I concur with you. I'm just providing guide.
Just saying.
Yeah, school choice is another thing that I discussed with Paul, and I know that George and I discussed briefly as well. When I was at the mass conference, I talked to probably a dozen school committees about how they, if they had school choice, what they felt about school choice, and how they did the funds, and that's something we're really going to discuss. FYI, the majority of them just offset the budget with school choice funds. They treat it as a grant, basically. Budget visuals and information was another thing that we talked about briefly with Paul and George. And that was basically having the information to provide to the town, number one, a visual of what our budget looks like over the last 5 or 6 years by growth. And also, I would like to superimpose the same visual on top of that shows the grants and how the grant reduction has been for like the last 7 years. And I think that's going to be a very powerful thing to kind of like, bam, in your face. Here's level service for the last 5 years, and grants are going down. Grant reduction. And then I was just going to, my last thing was just that we have the meeting on the 18th where we can finalize whatever we need to do. I don't know if the timing works. What day of the week is that, Patty?
I think it's a Monday, because the 20th we have a meeting, and that's a Wednesday.
Yeah, so we may be able to, we may be able, depending on the deadlines, maybe
Yeah.
actually be able to
Yeah.
discuss the newspaper submission as a working group and get something put in place that at least two of the members are comfortable with, and then we can submit it simultaneously. I guess the chairman can figure out exactly how we're going to do that. But that's all I have for that, and we're ready to knock this out of the park.
So we should maybe go more than the hour on that 18th.
No, I mean, I don't.
We can have a draft.
Yeah, I don't. No, but I mean,
It's a
honestly,
lot.
at this
We've got a
point,
lot to do.
no, at this point, I mean, at this point, the pace that we're doing this working group is never going to get anything done. I mean, we have so much to do for the budget stuff,
Right.
and it starts with getting the schedule out there first of all, and figuring out what timeline we need to be on, what milestones we have to meet.
And just the other comment about all of this, the visuals and the overlay, what I keep talking to people about is that even if our student population is staying fixed, roughly fixed, and they all look the same as they always have, our little cute little children, but they are coming with many more needs. So the level service budget can't be just based on the number of kids that are sitting in front of us, because they're not the same. The challenges that the kids are facing today require more resources in order to help them be successful. So it's recognizing that, we're not a factory and the raw materials do change, and we need to still produce the same product, quality product. So,
And I don't want to generalize and speak for all of the members of the town, but I know that a couple of the selectmen that I spoke with, one of the anecdotes that I use to compare the two is if 100 residents move into Mashpee, you don't have to go hire another assistant rec director. This is a very fluid budget. We're doing it with 2 years of outlay. We don't know what the outer districts are going to be. We don't know what gas prices are going to do. Don't know how many people are going to move in or out. So I mean, there's a lot. I'm trying to really be very communicative with the town and be very informative and let them realize that the town budget and the school budget really are two different animals. So, and I'm done.
all right, so the next goal is to establish protocols to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the school committee. And we had a meeting on November 17th. The members of the committee that are serving on that are Don Myers and Chris Santos, and myself and Dr. Hanscom. And we really came up with sort of some categories, a lot of action steps. We grouped our steps as meetings and operations that we want to improve, communication, budget and finance, superintendent's evaluation. And do we have a next meeting on that? I don't remember.
What's it called?
It's called
The-
1B.
Group 2?
Yes.
1B.
I don't think so.
Which ironically enough, that meeting did take, 2.5 hours?
That was a long meeting.
Efficiency.
Well, we really have a great list of
We do.
sort of guiding information
But I'm
to
not
make us
saying
move
it's-
forward.
I mean, it's Jack, so I was
Zero
sort of making
efficiency.
fun of Jack a little, but I was,
What's that? I'm
I
sorry?
was totally making fun of you. But
I completely ignored you.
more than that, we have a lot to do, is what
Yeah.
really my
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
is when I'm saying that list. It's not an hour once a month meeting.
No,
It
Right.
can't,
no, it's not.
we can do a lot of stuff offline, but some of it we really have.
If we're just doing this to
have
meet
table.
and make it look like we're doing
No,
something,
no.
then we can
Yeah.
do an hour.
No.
No.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
and I was me.
Don, did you want to add anything to that one? Because
No-
you were
noted.
there.
No, I think you covered it, although I do think we need to try to figure out a next meeting date.
Yes, Gail will get that going.
Yeah.
Gail will get All right, the third goal is to adopt policy guidance oversight from MASC. And we had our first meeting on December 1st, and present were Chris Santos and Nicole Bartlett are on the committee, myself, Dr. Hanscom, and Jim Hardy from MASC. We have set up 3 other dates, December 21st, January 11th, February 8th. The format or the progress or the process of the work is we're presented with 2 sections of the policy manual to review at each meeting. We're provided them in advance of the meeting, and then we are, what Jim does is points out our current policy, if it's aligned to MASC, and where there are differences and what we might need to align in order to make sure in the end, we want to make sure all of our policies and practices match up. So what he says is we'll begin to include a summary of the types of changes for the school committee packet as we go through the process. Substantive changes will be detailed, and we need to make sure, like I already said, policies and practices match. And so he makes the changes sort of live while we're meeting, so it's somewhat of an efficient process, quick turnaround. And so by the end, you will adopt at one time, and there'll be one date at the bottom, but you will have made progress along the way, and we'll keep notes so that we know which ones have been reviewed and approved by the school committee. And so far, we're working on Section A, Foundations and Basic Commitments, and B, Board Governance and Operations. Any questions? Sure.
I didn't know it was on that, so I
Oh,
put the
did-
dates in. No, it's cool.
You said? Oh,
The-
you weren't there.
The only
No.
comment I'll make
Oh.
specifically for you, Don, is that I was actually impressed by how organized it is and how streamlined it is. Now, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a lot of work and it's going to take a lot of time. But I was a little surprised at how well it was put together. And you know, the process is made fairly easily for us to get through all that stuff. So we should make some good headway soon.
Yeah, and I think also, I would add that in chatting with my friend who's on the Falmouth School Committee, they were taking up this issue about whether to do this, so they hadn't done it yet, and I said I was pretty impressed,
Yeah.
you know, after, so, you know, it wasn't free, but it's good, I can see what we paid for.
I was going to say, at this
Right.
point in time, I would agree that it was money well spent.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty good after one meeting, so good.
So just to clarify, then you're going to bring those sections, once each of them are completed, to the whole school committee for first and second readings so that we can accept or reject them, correct?
That I believe is the idea as we move along. Some of them will be minor changes, and then others might be a little bit more substantial. So those would be more fully described. Others will just be noted. But yes, you'll be able to flow and follow the process.
And I also want to note for the record that the number of policy meetings has mushroomed during my tenure on the school committee.
Despite all assurance.
When I joined, there was one in the previous 3 years. I've already been to 4, and there are 3 more scheduled. So if you run into John Bartlett on the street, you can probably tell him I was duped.
All right, and then the last goal that we have is to enhance and nurture effective and collaborative relationships, partnerships with all Mashpee stakeholders. We had a meeting on the 20th. Participants are Nicole Bartlett and Jeff Gorman, and then Hope Hanscom and myself. And actually, the way the goal is worded is to develop a data-driven, inclusive stakeholder communication strategy that enhances collaboration. And we had a really good conversation about some of the data that we want to collect, sort of to get it off the ground. I don't think we have another meeting yet set up, so we need to do that too. So I'll have Gail do that.
And
You
Jeff
go.
wasn't at that one, so we
That's
can
right.
convene one of all of us.
That's right. All right, so we need a meeting of 2A, and we need a meeting of 1B.
1B.
All right.
Is that it?
That's it.
I do want to thank both of you, though, for all the hard work you're putting into this stuff, because I know with everything you do every day, and I know just being on 2 of these, and I'm sure they can attest to being on theirs, that it's a lot of work. So to be at every single one of them on top of what you're already doing, you know, it's a lot of work, so I appreciate it.
It's
All good.
It's good. And can I thank you for aligning it with the goals of the district, because it really is work that we all need to do. So it actually, I take the credit, like the compliment, that's nice of you, but this is all work. That's why we're gonna be awesome. because
Exactly.
We're all doing the same stuff.
I agree.
So we are awesome. We're gonna be awesomer.
All right. Don, do you have anything else before we move on?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, fantastic. The next item on the agenda is specifically an unassigned unfinished business and an update on the Quashnet window roof door project.
Right, so there's been a few little glitches, but they still anticipate everything will get there. In terms of dates that are still coming up, December 8th, the general contractor bids are due at 2. December 18th, on Monday, the contract award and notice to proceed, I think is at the Selectmen's meeting. January 2nd through the 8th, window shop drawings. January 22nd through the 26th, window shop drawings are returned to Raymond Design Associates. April 9th, the general contractor can start work at the school. April 23rd is the last date target windows to be on site, and substantial completion by December 28th of 18. One of the things that had happened was they only received one bid, I guess it's a something for the HVAC. But in that bid, that particular vendor had specifically said they wouldn't work with a certain general contractor, and they were the only bid. Anyway, they weren't awarded the bid. They were 50% higher too than the estimate, which who knows, that could be how it works. But they sent a notice to the Attorney General, so they were, what's the word I'm slipping out of my head? Appealing to the Attorney General. So then there has to be hearing. So that was a little glitchy, but hopefully it'll all work out. We had a Planning and Construction Committee meeting. We have another one, I think, prior to the 18th, before the Selectmen's meeting, to look at, I think, general contractor and any other
Finish everything
bids.
for the meeting, right?
Yeah. But you just have to maintain a very positive outlook. Does anyone want this little timeline of dates for Sunday? Okay. All right.
Is that it? Anything else?
That's it for the windows.
All right, fantastic. Next item is the superintendent school start time recommendation for FY20.
So in the packet, and I have all these papers in there. First of all, I know the question came up as to when we last talked about this topic, which, according to the minutes of February 1st, 2017, the committee, it's update and vote on school start time. The committee will table school start time to a future date and have the school start time committee research other possibilities. So that's where we left it back in the day, a year ago. So you have a memo from myself. This has also been something that the entire administrative team has provided input on. And it comes down to basically acknowledging all of the research out there, and that we want to put our students first and their well-being comes first. And so the recommendation would be that we are going to have a later start time at the high school. We are not well, the administrative team and myself are not proposing it be implemented until FY20, so that everybody would have ample time to plan. And so in the middle of this memo, what you see are our recommended times, and it has the Coombs and Quashnet School shifting to the earlier shift at 7:30 for a start time. They both have the same start time, because since they'll be the starting run both in the morning and afternoon, particularly in the afternoon, the buses can already be there. They're not coming in from a run from the high school. So we anticipate having half the buses start, so half of the buses will always drop off at the Coombs School first in the morning, and those will be the same buses that are lined up there 5 or 10 minutes before the end of the school day. The other half of the buses that drop off at the Quashnet School first will also pick up first in the afternoon, and then they switch off. Many years ago, probably 23, it used to be that we did that. We had a split busing. So they would go at 7:30, and we do need to be efficient with our dismissal process at the lower level, because they only have an hour to make it back to the high school for a 3 o'clock pickup. So anticipated challenges will be the aftercare at the younger grade levels, because they will be done at 2. You know, many times there are opportunities for after-school activities, which would bring it to 2:45, but they will, be getting out an hour or 45 minutes earlier than currently. And on the second sheet in this little packet, just sort of is a recap of what happened with the school start time. It shows the members that were on the committee, all of the dates that we met, some of the surveys that we did, some of the ways we tried to communicate, and at that time, the proposal, which you see right in the middle of the second sheet, our original proposal was an 8:30 start time for the high school, so there's no change there, but we were shifting the elementary to the later start time, which appeared to create quite a few challenges for parents who had to get to work, and childcare became what seemed to be difficult to work out. I do have, which I'll share pass down to, this is all of the local schools with their school start times, so you could take one of those. And then I also have for you the athletic league that we're in. These are their start times. I'm going to give you one. I need to get. If there's extras, you could pass those back for you left your paper.
I do. You need one copy?
Yeah, and then I'll give one to Hope.
I have that.
Oh, well,
That's okay.
And this is not, this evening is meant to be sort of a presentation for you to start pondering and offer opportunities for some public hearings on it as well. For me, it would be something that hopefully you would be able to decide on a vote in early February would be nice, but,
So, Ray, you just answered one of the questions I was gonna have, is what did you perceive as what you'd like to see for a timeline and
well, I want to make sure that you give families opportunities to provide input. I'm going to predict that at best 50% of our people will be happy and 50% will not. When you look at neighboring towns, they have, and we did look at neighboring towns when we looked at elementary, and you look at several towns whose kids start at 9, and those families have been able to adjust, but that was not well received on our end. I know the concern of athletic students or the athletes, and I'm hoping over time, and Matt Treveri is going to try to work on this, is that more of the games are started later so that they don't have to leave so early for the league that somehow we've landed in, which has some distance to it.
Well, and the other question I had that kind of works off of that one is, so obviously I don't expect us to reaccomplish everything with all the meetings and everything we did last time. But as far as regathering some of that information, like I know when we had discussed this earlier in the year, because we haven't seen it in 10 months,
Yeah.
Nicole had some good ideas as well as to how to potentially gather some of it, because happy, not happy, I mean, that matters, but I mean, that's not real data. So I know we had a lot of issues with, logistics and like you had noted, after-school care and things like that. I'm sure that's going to change now that it's been 10 months, now that it's a different time that's being recommended. How do we plan on recapturing some of that data?
Well, I don't want this to sound harsh at all, but I feel that the research supports having our high school kids go later. I'm not looking to add a huge financial burden to the district where they would all start at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to say that as a family, we're giving you ample time to hopefully be able to make it work for your family. And I don't, sometimes there are so many shareholders or stakeholders in this. We can't possibly, we're this large, school system, we can't work around everybody's schedule. So in the end, if you decide what you think is best for our students, and then we support as best we can and give ample time to families to plan. But, I expect if you have 2 months, you'll hear from a lot of people one way or the other, and some are going to be so against it. When we did our original survey, there were very few families who said their high schooler had to be home for their little one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 12. It was a very low number. Now that may grow now because they don't like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think it's the right thing to do and probably the kids it's most or least beneficial for would be our 6th graders at the Quashnet School who are very close to that middle school bump
Mm-hmm.
and really should be matching up more with the later start. But, for that one grade level versus, potentially benefiting 7 through 12. And everyone has said how, our younger kids are very energetic. We do have the question of the earlier pickup, so if it's a 7:30 start time at school, you probably are going to have our littlest ones potentially being picked up at 6:45 in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have the darkness piece as well, but, yeah. So there's a lot of things.
So Patty, will this be published on the website somewhere where people will be able to easily find it?
We'll put it on the website. The sad part about our new website is the entire school start time blog is no longer accessible. And everything that was on that blog was stored on the website and linked, so it all flowed well, which is now not happening. But we will make sure it gets out there. We can put it on various media, and then it will go individually to all of the families, something like this or very similar, inviting them to share their thoughts.
So, I had briefly sent an email to Don and Patty about this, but kind of the point of order part of it is, what are we doing with the original proposal that's on the table? So, are we going to take that from the table and talk about it, or?
Well, so in February, you voted to table the school start time to a future date. You never voted on that proposal.
Right, it needs to be taken from the table and discharged somehow. Either we vote it down, or we get rid of it, or before we can start talking about another proposal.
Okay. I thought table.
Yeah, I think we should, to his point, bring it off the table, decide, what to do with that original one, and then we can deal with, maybe the next steps on this one. So, I would make a motion that we bring off the table for discussion purposes the original motion regarding school start times that was made by the superintendent.
You gonna get the motion? You want to repeat that, Don?
Yeah, my motion is to bring off the table for discussion purposes the original proposal for changing school start times.
Okay, thank you. So that motion.
Second it.
Anybody want a second? I will second.
Can we amend the motion to take from the table? That's the
What was the wording?
actual term, take from the
Bring
table.
off the table
Take from the table.
instead of bring
Take
off
from the
the
table?
Yeah.
Amend the
Yeah,
motion
I-
to take from the table, Don.
Take.
Yeah, take from the table.
Okay.
And this is where it seems like we're just spinning our wheels now, but now it's back on the table, and you can do whatever you want with it, Patty. So I mean, it's if you want to change the
Well-
proposal to now go from the late start times that you proposed when we tabled it to the early start times, and that's your right.
So we could replace the proposal that is now back on the table.
Well, first we have to finish that vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, right, yeah, we were just my
It
apologies.
was seconded by me, so is there any discussion?
Sorry.
No? Hearing none? Nicole?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes,
My apologies. Now it's
That's
on the
it.
table. Now it's up. Now it's taken
thank
from
you,
the table.
Jeff.
Let's begin.
It is off, it's back on.
So, I think my recommendation would be that the previously submitted proposal, which was in January, February of 2017, which specifically said MMHS students would start their day at 8:30 and end at 3. Quashnet students would start at 9 and end at 3:30. Coombs students would start at 9:05 and end at 3:35. That proposal I would propose, which doesn't make sense.
Allow
To
myself to
withdraw
introduce
from
myself.
consideration. To withdraw from consideration based predominantly by the feedback from our community and the associated costs with supporting a before-school child care program.
Could we discuss that for a second?
Yeah.
So, it seems like before I was here, there was a recommendation made to change the high school start times and then push the elementary schools later. You guys conducted a optional survey of community members. And in that optional survey, it came back that a lot of people would they came out of the woodwork to say they didn't want it. We don't know what proportion of the community that represented. We don't know whether some people submitted multiple responses. But
Oh, we had it set so they could not.
okay, but we don't know whether it impacted their entire family, one student versus 3 students. We don't know how many of those families have 4 kids in the system versus how many have 1. And there was a number created about what we could anticipate in terms of the before care cost that you had intended to offer for free for families. So there was a price tag associated with that policy change. We do not know that there will not be a price tag associated with this policy change. In terms of, you're not proposing to offer additional you know, care or anything like that. But it seems like if there are two choices, then ought we not to evaluate the two choices thoroughly, rather than simply take one off the table and replace it with an alternative? I'm just posing the question, but I'm not sure. I just want to arrive at the best solution, and I'm not sure, you know, putting 7-year-olds on buses at 6:45 that's a huge safety concern for me, even though my kids are not going to be that young at that time. But I imagine that's going to be a concern. And, you know, I would, as a school committee member, be prepared to go to this town and say we need a 4% budget increase to cover additional costs of busing so that all of our kids can go to school at the appropriate time for something that's 2 years from now. So I'm not sure there is a budget neutral proposal. So if you're pulling one to replace it with the other, that means we've got to focus on the alternative, which I guess we could do. But if we're evaluating what the best scenario is, then let's evaluate what the best scenario is. I will 100% agree that I'm in favor of moving school start times in accordance with the American Medical Association recommendations. I think the evidence is very clear and strong. I just don't buy that we can do it in a budget neutral environment, and I really want to do it right. So that's my comment for the record.
Well, and my only piece to that is that there's never been, school hours have never matched work hours of families.
Yeah.
For years and years and years. So people have to make adjustments and plans. There is a cost associated with that I do not think the school system should be expected to absorb, because we do not match our day to the work day. If we had extended school day, probably in a perfect world, that probably would be great. But everyone has always had to make plans, neighbors or however it goes. So, and the only other thing about the, which I'm all for gathering more information, when we were trying to just tweak out how many people needed that before school care on the elementary level, we specifically did, you know, a range of, you know, we knew what grades the kids were in, what schools they attended, and then they told us how many kids would need that before school care. Now that could just be because that was an easy solution and we want to support the members of this community, but I just don't see that as necessarily our role, because we're this large organization with a goal of, you know, educating our students the best that we can, and as a parent, you figure that out, because work schedules never match school schedules. So, but anyway, that's just my...
I'm also trying to kind of remove us out of the home as well, you know, in this whole discussion. And I think we kind of fell down the rabbit hole last time, and all we were constant, yeah, we really were trying to
be helpful,
to be helpful, and we probably need to take a step back from that. But I'm also of the, you know, growing up, learning how to kind of do this kind of planning. There was always more than one course of action, right? And me personally, I would be much more comfortable. I know when we tabled this initially, my big concern was we didn't really have enough data, and we had data at the end, very end of the, you know, at the very end of the rope there. We were just going into a pretty crazy budget scenario, and we had, I think, $250,000 was the very first number that came out, and I think that, you know, immaturely squashed your proposal, and when we probably should have just continued talking about it. That being said, no hindsight. It's off the table now. You have an original proposal. You have a new proposal. I don't think we hurt anything. I don't think we can get done any slower if we take both courses of action. And even if we just determine that we have a third course of action or a fourth, and we look at all of them and really determine what is the best scenario, as opposed to just because we weren't able to make the last one work. We're kind of coming at a different way, right? I mean, we're not going to worry about before school care.
When the school start time committee originally started, we had multiple plans and options that we laid out. And, you know, in all of this, the later start time at the elementary level was not popular with staff, because then their day was much longer. Whatever. But we can absolutely gather opinions.
I'm not trying to frustrate you.
No, you're not frustrating
me.
I don't know in the end you'll have the data. And if that's going to allow you to choose the best option, then that's great. I don't, that's great.
I'm not actually, I'm not really not asking for extra data just to get data. I'm just saying, I would be much more comfortable, me personally, looking at many options as opposed to one option, and pigeonholing ourselves and trying to figure out how to make it work, because that's what we did last time. We've tried to make that work, and we probably should have taken a step back and made sure it was because I think we were close. We were close. If we would have pulled ourselves out of the home with that proposal, we probably could have made that work at some point. So Don doesn't,
Can I make
agree.
a suggestion?
Of course.
Since it's been a while since we've talked about this particular topic, yet at this point in time, leave the existing proposal out there along with the new one, so that the committee can look at the merits of both, at least in their own minds, and so that people can start to have exposure to what both proposals are, and if at a subsequent meeting the committee would want to narrow that down, because I think ultimately we do need to get it narrowed down to a singular item that we're going to ultimately say yay or nay on. We don't have to do that tonight, though.
No, Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, too, because the other one was untabled?
Taken from the table.
Taken from the table? There's no limit to how many options we can explore, but we cannot vote on anything unless it's been officially, recommended. It's in the packet. It's the proposal that was recommended. So there's no stopping you from, or the committee or anybody, to looking into an unlimited amount of options, but the only one that can be voted on is whatever has been presented as the recommendation for the committee to vote on. You see what I'm saying? So we can look at the old one, we can look at the new one, we can look at anything we want.
Well, I believe that the committee can accept a recommendation or can decide to modify the recommendation, because it is a recommendation.
Exactly.
So if you don't like 7:30, you want to make it 7:35, you can, that's up to the committee to decide.
You can't do that because you won't be able to get back and pick up high school kids.
But I think that's my point. So we can look at any options we want, and then we can either choose to vote on to accept or reject the recommendation as it stands, or we can vote to modify the recommendation in any way. You know what I mean? So, okay. Did everybody understand that? I don't know if I explained that correctly.
I was just waiting for the end. Just
No.
tell me what the, give me the punchline.
Well then.
Instead of trying to follow.
Well, I'm not sure, so I moved to send the original and the new proposal to the committee, school start time committee. Is that not what your intention was, or did you? Are you not interested in using the school start time committee anymore?
Sort of. But it's fine, or maybe it will be it'll be made up of a new group of people, or a smaller group of people. It's really, at this point, I mean, we as a leadership team can kind of come up with multiple scenarios, and then if we want to, get information from families. The original, children, see, he came to see where you are.
Yeah.
The original survey way back when had 5 different options of, and so we could, some of which I don't think we, I don't know, we'll have to re-explore
Well,
them all.
I'm not suggesting necessarily that we create policy by survey, but I do think if we have, there are a lot has changed. One, we know we're looking at the 1920 school year, so we have a target. We intend, we plan, I would be comfortable voting to say we will be moving school start times in 1920. so that everybody knows that we're doing something. And then deciding what that is, we have time. I don't think we can, first of all the people who were up in arms about that later change, their kids are gonna be 3 years older then, so they may not be even in the mix. So
They still won't like the later time
have
because
new
now their child is going at 8:30.
I think, yeah, but I just think we don't know, and it's probably worthwhile to have, some very transparent and public discussion with members of the public and evaluate kind of the two options. And I agree, I don't think it's gonna be an easy decision.
No.
And it might be just between these two choices, but, I'd like to explore some of that a bit further. And I think it's me and Chris on the committee right now,
On the,
school start times.
Would you
I
like me
think
to withdraw
Dawn's
my
still on
motion?
that.
Or me and Don, that's
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
it's me and Don.
There's a motion.
yeah, you did you get that motion that,
Which
Yeah,
we
no.
probably need to get a
I
second
thought
before we
the
continue
motion to
discussion.
take it off the table, the original one. And it
No.
was
I moved to
before-
send to
Dinner.
committee. Did you not hear that?
To what?
Send to committee?
Send a committee.
Send the proposal to
to the
committee?
committee.
Oh,
To
I
the-
heard
to
you
the
talk
school
about it.
Oh,
start
sorry,
time.
to the school start time
So
committee.
you
Start
just
time
said,
committee.
should we move it to the committee, but I didn't know.
Oh, my fault. Hey, no.
School start time.
You wanna
But
move
he's
it
going
back
to withdraw that anyway.
I think we need to provide guidance to the school start time committee in regard to what information we would like to have them develop, or what we would like them to do.
But I think you're right, it is you and I, Nicole.
Yeah.
As far as school committee members, I believe is it Don?
It's Dawn and Nicole.
Oh, is it? Don, are you on that now? I know it was myself and you last year. Is it you and Nicole this time?
I didn't think I didn't know it changed,
Yeah,
but
we'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
it
pretty
We'll figure
sure
it
I'm
out.
still on it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Well, I'll withdraw my motion, but we need to discharge it somehow. I mean, it can't just sit here on the table. You just can't sit here as an active proposal. We gotta do something with it.
Well, so the original proposal is no longer tabled,
Mhm.
Correct.
correct? And so you're looking for the school start time committee to come back to you with multiple proposals.
No, me personally, I just moved that we took the original proposal and the new proposal and put it to the school start time committee to discuss. But I do, I mean, I understand where Don's coming from. I mean, this is a 10-month-old committee that probably really isn't even, I mean, it's not a sitting committee anymore, so.
Well, I just think we need to provide guidance in regard to what is it that we want them to do. Do we want them to do a survey? What exactly additional information do we want? I think, as a committee, we probably should be thinking about at some point then having another public hearing to have an opportunity for people to come and share their thoughts with the committee itself. But I guess this is an open-ended question if you can't see it, me waving my hand. What is it that you want, and maybe Nicole, what is it that you want that from the school start time committee to be able to provide you with additional information to be able to make a decision?
Well, I just think it's incumbent upon the school committee to get information on the impact of this change in policy. So whether that's done through the school start times committee or through us holding a public meeting with this specific agenda item, I think that we can discuss the merits of each.
Okay,
Earlier in the year, we talked about bringing the school start times committee back together, and I think when I talked to Patty about it, her thought was, we as a leadership team are making a recommendation now. We're ready to make that recommendation, and so I think that's what she's doing tonight. But I just don't think, as a school committee member, I mean, it feels like, well, now we need to go back and find out what the impact of this potential change is gonna be.
On the families.
Well, there could be financial, I don't know, bus drivers, families, I mean, I don't know. If anything, I don't know enough about what you're proposing to know how people will be impacted. Right? After-school care, do we have enough seats for, you know,
Right, I mean,
potential
that,
after-school?
right.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you for just one second. I'm going to second his motion, just so we can have the discussion.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Oh, I would have withdrawn it, yeah, okay.
What was his motion? What was your motion?
To go to the committee. But I-
Send it, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I may withdraw that.
That's fine, you can withdraw it.
Yeah, only because I'm concerned because I'm not really sure what Patty's intention was with this new recommendation.
No, you can withdraw. I just want to second it.
Yeah.
Get to that point. So,
We're having a discussion right now, so I'm not going to withdraw it
yeah,
yet.
so
I'm
it's
just trying to-
seconded and we're in discussion.
So, as a leadership team, and we all sat on as part
Yeah.
of the school start time committee, I don't know what other additional work that committee would do. I mean, we can make recommendations for options for you to consider, and you need to hear from the people. You know, if you talk about bus drivers, their hours are the same, that wouldn't change. There is gonna be the issue with aftercare, whether it's leisure services, Boys and Girls Club. So, but that piece, that hour that we have to account for, or families have to account for, is not something I'm willing to spend $500,000 or $600,000 on to get additional buses to keep everybody the same. I think we give them plenty of time to figure out how this can work, and we can support, you know, Mary Bradbury's program the best we can, and Ruth's program. But, you know, when I started teaching here, there was no Boys and Girls Club, so I don't know where those 70 children went every afternoon. But they went someplace. You know, we have to, families have to adapt. We can't be everything in that respect.
But if we had 8 more buses, you wouldn't be sending elementary kids to school in the dark.
We had
Right.
13 more buses?
Well, 13, 8
Yeah.
to 10, I thought we needed 10 for the elementary schools,
No,
but,
they have actually, how many?
There's actually
15,
yeah.
yeah.
But I'm just saying, you know, then that's what I'm not talking about that we need to bend over backwards for families, although I do think we ought to be considerate of what helps families succeed and work, because you're gonna get these kids, they're gonna get these kids, and I don't wanna create a new problem just because we've fixed a problem at the high school, right?
Mhm.
So, I just think it is, yeah, we need to hear from the public, but I also just want to better understand the implications of this. And, you know, we'll have the distinction of being, you know, the earliest elementary school on the entire Cape. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I'd like the chance to find out. I'd like to hear what, you know, the principals think. I'd like to hear what some teachers think.
Well, and so I don't know what, you want that to be the forum that the school start time committee hosts meetings?
I don't know.
You know what the principals think only in the sense that I did not submit this proposal in isolation. My recommendation, and the fact that we didn't reconvene the school start time, was a decision made by the big team in the summer. So, that you, in a sense, this recommendation, you are hearing from them. Maybe we need to hear more teacher voices and more other people voices. And, you know, there will not be, I mean, in trying to, yeah, unless you know, want to invest in another 13 or 15 buses, there's going to be somebody that this is not the perfect scenario for. But in my opinion, what we've been doing so long has not been a good scenario for our high school kids. But we've been okay with doing that, so, which is not good.
I see where you're coming from, and I'm not, Nicole has not sold me on the extra buses, but you know, the way my mind works is we spent a lot of time and effort discussing the original proposal, and we spent a lot of time at the school start time committee, and
Yes,
you
we
know,
did.
I really think that we had some very good discussions about it, and we were, like I said, we were getting close to figuring that out. And unfortunately, the situation with the newspaper comments and the, you know, being in front of the Board of Selectmen talking about money, you know, all that, you know, kind of almost forced us to table this discussion because it was not the right environment. And so when we come back now, the first time we've had this discussion again after 10 months, and it's a completely different proposal, right?
Half different.
Well, it's completely
Elementary.
different. I mean, yeah, I mean, it really is a completely different proposal. And I'm not putting this down. I just think we spent so much time and effort on the original one. I don't understand why we would just throw that away. It's the baby with the bathwater thing. You know, so that was my only comment about keeping them in both together. Let's discuss them together, figure out the best approach, and then move on. If it's not to the school start time committee, I have no issue where it goes. I just know me personally, I'm in no position right now to make any kind of decision on school start times.
Right.
So what we do from this point is, and I can defer to the chairman, but what we're going to do at this point, we're either going to table it to another time to rediscuss it, like you can put an actual definitive time on it. We can say in 2 meetings. Or we can send it to committee. There's very few things we can really do, you know.
Because it was not meant
Or postpone it, not table it.
No,
No,
it was
no,
never
no.
meant for a vote.
Right.
like
No.
that was.
Or we can be noted and we can bring it up at another meeting, you know, and as a vote or a more discussion, or we could put on the agenda an update, and when everybody's comfortable with moving it to a vote, I guess we could do that too. I'm just trying to figure out a way to support what you're trying to do. I know you're trying to get the ball rolling, and I'd like to support
Well,
you.
and then I feel like, you know, what Dawn was saying is to make sure if we're considering these 2 options or potentially a third, is making sure, oh, she's talking to me, is making sure, I don't know why I did that, making sure that we're transparent, that
Right,
families
right,
know
right.
what we're thinking about, when we're thinking about it. You know, we can go back to maybe doing a slightly different structure, but just getting a feel for which of the options works
No,
best, but it's not going to work best for all of them.
I do agree with what Jeff's saying.
So I'm going to draw my motion.
And I do, at some point, we should do something where somebody else is looking at it, because I know when we originally had the school start time committee, it was more of a research whether or not we should even do it.
Right.
Whether it was, you know,
And then we
viable.
ended up with a recommendation.
And then we did a recommendation. I think at this point, it's more of a, which way should we do it, not should we do it.
How do we do it?
How do we do it? So I think somebody needs to look at that, whether it's comparing the 2 or bringing in other elements, not necessarily bringing in the factors from, we had doctors come in and all that. We already have that information. We know it's beneficial. So now it's how do we implement it the right way? So I think, you know, in Jeff's point.
I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try
I
again.
thought she was going to tell me to be
Siri's
quiet.
not Siri spoke out of order.
So,
Sorry.
I don't want to keep going on, so that's the punchline, Nicole, for me.
Yeah.
On that one.
So we could continue this to,
Yeah,
as
my motion,
unfinished
so we-
business
yeah.
and bring it up every other meeting until, you know, the committee makes
Yep.
the determination of what to do with this.
Motion's withdrawn, Don, so we can do exactly that.
Okay? But I guess I'm back to, what do committee members want to, as far as additional information or feedback or analysis, that either the committee itself or the superintendent or another group needs to do, so that we can get to a point in the near future where people feel they have enough information to be able to make a decision one way or the other. And I don't know that we need to answer that question tonight,
I
But
don't
think
we
of-
want to.
but think about it between now and the 20th,
Yeah,
would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's
I
good.
agree. I think we should add that to the agenda for the 20th. All right, so does anybody else have anything on that, on the school start time?
Split, so it's quashed.
He withdrew.
Oh, you don't have to second it?
No.
Yeah, that is an error on that chart.
Oh, it is?
There we
Yeah.
go.
Because you're planning, what you're
Yeah, ours
suggesting
is to
the
combine.
middle high school,
Is to-
both starting at the same time.
Right.
Okay.
All right, does anybody else have anything on that agenda item?
So we're gonna think about what we want and what we need in order to be able to provide this.
And then on the 20th, we'll have it on the agenda again and bring any kind of information that you want to get from it.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right, we are moving on. All right, next is new business. We need a vote for a representative for Environmental Oversight Committee. There is a letter in the packet, and
Yeah, I was just going to say something on that. So when I read this letter, the town has an environmental oversight committee, and it says that there are 3 members at large, one of which would be a school department designee chosen by the school committee. It does not have to be a school committee member.
Right.
Okay, so just making sure on that.
That's
So,
right.
yeah, I know. Designating a representative from the school department to serve. So environmental oversight committee leads me towards, someone in the science field that we could reach out to, one of our staff members who might be interested in serving on that committee.
So you don't have a recommendation right now?
Well, my recommendation, however, I haven't spoken to the person, would be the science department head at the high school.
So this is Don. So this is one of those committees that never dies, clearly, because this was when I formed way back in, 2009 or something like that?
It says 2007.
2007.
Yes.
So 2007, as a result of work from another committee called the Blue Ribbon Committee, that looked at a number of things for the town. So, the school has had, over the years, had varying levels of participation. To Patty's point, it typically was someone from the science department or a teacher. There was, and I'm not sure if it still is, a group at the high school made up of students that were also actively involved with that committee. I don't know whatever happened to that.
Don, there is an environmental club at the high school, which is the advisor of the club is the person I would pick anyway. So
Okay.
it should all align itself well.
And you have not spoken to this individual yet?
Because I was just reading it closely today, realizing it's not one of you. It's a
Oh,
person.
it doesn't have to be,
No.
unless someone has a burning desire to be on
Nicole
it.
would like to be on
And
it.
Nicole wants to be on this.
Nicole wants to, she said. So if that's
Although
the case,
George is not here, so
oh, that's true. He may.
he's in Africa in the environment.
If that's the case, everybody agrees. We will not vote on designating anybody today, and we'll table
Yeah,
it
I'll
till
bring
the
it back
20th.
with a person's name.
That sounds
All right.
Mhm.
Okay. Everybody's in agreement, so we'll do that. Bring it to the 20th.
This
All
was due
right.
on Friday, December the 1st.
Yes.
by the way.
Oh,
We
is
got it late.
Well, we're already late.
I assume we didn't get it on the 7th. And it said to
No,
say the
it-
7th, and we had a meeting on the 8th, and that was our last meeting, right?
Yep.
You know, it was
As I'm sure it's important, I don't believe it's that pressing. Okay, next item is the discussion of school committee policy towards responsibilities and term limits for board members. So, is there any discussion on?
So that was my request to add this to the agenda, because I believe at the last meeting, I couldn't figure out how someone who wasn't on the policy subcommittee could request the committee to discuss a potential change in policy. And my intention initially was to actually look at the policy and and play with it and provide a copy, but I don't want to get into that, the weeds. So I know, me personally, I think it's important for us to very clearly delineate what the responsibilities of each board officer is. And there has been discussion amongst only 2 of us, because we didn't violate open meeting, but there was 2 of us that were discussing term limits for board officers to ensure that everyone on the board in their 3-year term should be able to rotate through an officer position and build a little bit of skill. So this is one of those times that I have to defer to my own ignorance, and I don't know how to properly do this. So I wanted to just provide this to the policy committee. I know you guys are inundated with the review. So if there's a way to dovetail this into a discussion of the existing policy, please, I'm requesting you do so. If it can't be discussed until the middle of next year, then so be it. I mean, there's no urgency. But if we're going to do something, we should probably talk about it before the next reorg.
So I guess what I would think on it. So we're going over section A and B. B is the school committee policy section. I have not noticed if that specific one is in there yet. I haven't gotten to that point yet. If we come across that one,
Yeah.
that would probably be a good time to look at it, because we're actually already going to be in that section going over the changes and all that. So that might not be a good time to take a look at it, and, you know any potential changes
Yeah.
or what we're
Perfect.
looking at.
This is kind of a
here,
weird
so.
thing, because I don't know how to really,
That would be my recommendation.
yeah,
I
how
don't
to
know.
really do this kind of stuff. It seems funky if you're not in the policy subcommittee with some kind of rice bowl. It seems kind of weird, self-serving to bring something to the committee.
Well, you always can. You can always recommend.
And that's what
change
I'm
to
on,
the
so I'm
broader
just
committee,
asking
yeah.
to the commit, to go to the subcommittee and take a look at it, and discuss it, and see what you think, and if there's more information. I mean, the other person I spoke with was George. I mean, it's not private.
Yeah.
If you'd like to know.
I couldn't remember if it was me or not.
It wasn't you, yeah, it was George. So if there's, more information or kind of getting into our heads, or you can wait and you can bring it back to the full committee, we can have a full discussion, however the policy subcommittee wants to do it. But that's really all that was. This should be easy.
Well, the nice thing about having that going on right now is that the mask rep, Jim, yeah, he's just like an encyclopedia.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
those
And
guys
so
are
you can like
nuts.
just ask him a question. Like we were like asking him a few questions as asides. It wasn't about specifically the policy manual, but just like for reference. Hey, if we wanted to do this, or is this? I thought I saw in the training that we couldn't do this, and so I think I would just be curious to know what other school committees do.
It doesn't have to be
you
a
know?
policy either. It could be a protocol.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the selectmen,
they-
for example, their protocol is that your last year of, at least now it is, according to John Cotton, the last year is when you become the chairman. Potential last year of your term. Chairman, vice chairman.
With the option to waive it if you don't. want
Exactly,
to.
yeah, exactly. And the same thing with term limits too. I mean, any policy can be voted down. I mean, you can say, we're gonna waive the policy for term limits and vote it down because there's some super awesome person on the board that's,
We won't be able to do that until I become chair.
That's true, that's true. So, anyway, I don't wanna belabor that point anymore, because that's really all the discussion was for. So if you find the opportunity to discuss it, I'd appreciate it, and I guess we can just bring it up at some other point and have a chat.
And so is every position, just my own ignorance, is every position an officer, or are you just talking about the chair and vice chair?
I was talking the only three,
Secretary, chair,
secretary,
vice
chair, and
chair.
vice chair.
Okay, so there's
And the
three.
secretary probably needs a really firm looking at about what the responsibilities of the secretary
Okay.
I did it for 2 years. I know what they are.
are. Good, no, good, yeah, that's awesome, yeah.
I can go over it, yes.
It's what, I'm sorry?
It's an important leadership position. I believe you are the secretary.
I am,
Yeah.
I am.
I can speak to, just off the, record books, whatever, on other towns that I've worked in that do have something like what you're talking about. It's more informal, it's a protocol, not a policy.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's every 2 years, it rotates, and
Yeah.
it's by when you got voted on, and it works beautifully, and then if someone doesn't want it, then they're fine. But when you're the vice chair, that's when you're learning really,
Yeah, you're right, you're
how
supposed to
you
be
stick
getting
out
it, yeah.
and all of that. So
Yep.
that's certainly something, if I'm on, I'm on the subcommittee that I didn't realize I was, I can certainly give you my input on for what that experience was.
And my intention is not to make this difficult. That wasn't the intention.
No,
You know what I mean?
we
It's
don't-
not,
we
I'm
don't
not
take
trying to
it
make more policy, I'm just a nice discussion.
So, I think we need a motion though to send that to the policy subcommittee for, consideration, right?
No, Don, so I think you're a little ahead of the game. So he's just kind of bringing it up. He doesn't have
I don't have a
formal
proposal, Don.
proposal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's just kind of
I'm
saying, hey,
sorry.
when we get to it, if we happen to come across the policy and we have revisions, it's something that we should consider and look at. Now, on the 20th, if he comes with, some kind of written proposal or notifies Gail and yourself saying, hey, I want to add it to the agenda, then we can go ahead and tackle it then. I think it's just now for discussion.
Yep, absolutely. And if the policy subcommittee comes back and says that we have the opportunity to discuss it, but we need more info, I will provide that. George and I.
Okay.
George will.
Cool.
I'll just help him.
All right, great. So anything else on that?
No, sir.
No? All right. So anybody have any committee reports for subcommittees or anything that we did? No, I do not. I know
My collaborative meetings next week.
did a couple sick bank meetings and that's about it.
I did the Board of Selectmen meeting, but there was nothing more.
Don, anything committee reports?
No committee reports.
All right. Any items chairman did not reasonably know in advance of the meeting?
Yes.
Anything else? Yes.
I have something,
You
if I
do.
can have the floor.
Absolutely.
So, I have a little bit of a conundrum. It's one of my favorite words. Conundrum and myopic are my two favorite words. That it's interesting that because of the restrictions of the open meeting law, it's virtually impossible for someone to discuss concerns they have with the actual operation of the committee itself. I could send an email voicing my concerns about what's going on, and I'd violate the open meeting law. I can go to the chairman and discuss concerns I have with my open meeting law, discuss my concerns with the operations of the committee. I have done so. That prevents me from going to anybody else on the committee and discussing the concerns I have with some of the things that have been going on with the committee. As you know, I'm sure you know, based on my record and how we discuss and how I vote, I am not a confrontational person. And I am very happy when on the surface it seems that the committee is running like a well-oiled machine, even though behind the curtain we are slashing each other's faces off. And not that that's happening, I'm just saying, it's okay, that I'm comfortable with that. So my interest is to ask, I'm posing that question to the committee. What is the recourse for a committee member who is dissatisfied with the way things are working, with the way things are going, and not be able to violate the open meeting law? The only thing that I could think of was to either conduct a talk for 20 minutes explaining my dissatisfaction, to publicly submit a letter at an open meeting. Those are the only two options I could think of. So I'm actually kind of throwing myself at the committee and the acting chairman and the sitting chairman and figuring out how someone can remedy this kind of situation.
So from what I understand, and Don, I'm sure you have a little more input on this. From what I understand, you can obviously either filter through Patty and her office, which then she can either speak to yourself and another member, and
No, that's violation of open meeting
No,
law.
as far as what the concerns are, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
obviously not sit you down together and kind of
Right,
go over this,
right,
but
right.
what the concerns are, without even necessarily naming any kind of name specifically. Another route would be like we've had retreats, things like that, with this kind of stuff can be brought up again, and we can schedule those at any point. We don't necessarily have to only have one a year. We can say we're going to have one. We're having some issues. We'd like to get some things
Right.
out there, and we can schedule one for February or March and say, hey, let's get this stuff out there, or public meeting.
Well, a retreat is a public meeting.
Well, the official
Yeah.
business public meetings like we
Yeah.
do here,
Yeah.
scheduled every month.
I mean, the retreat is just a meeting by another name, so.
Yeah, exactly, but it's different agenda usually and not scheduled with our normal business meetings. But Don, anything?
I mean, my personal opinion is that, we could do it through the retreat, we could do it, as you're talking about, through the superintendent, or you do it through the normal course of a public meeting. Those are really the options. And I guess we've had in the past members express their opinions in public session.
Oh, I know I can always do that. But one thing that I am is deliberate, and I'm trying to be very mindful of my actions. I'm trying to be completely emotionless about it all and try to figure out the best way, because ultimately I just want things to be addressed, and either they can be addressed and fixed because other people in the committee think there's still an issue, or it can be, Gorman yelling in a very small room and echoing at himself, which is fine, because as Hope is fond of me saying, I defer to the Democratic. So yeah, that's my conundrum, because I have some serious reservations with some very current events, specifically the way my recusal was handled. And I have some other issues that I've previously discussed with the chairman. So, there you go.
Yeah, so the issue is that nobody else on the committee is really aware of what you think those
Hence
are.
my conundrum, yeah,
Yeah,
you know, because I can't speak to him
Once
about
he,
you out
once
of
he
open.
spoke to the chairman, now he cannot speak to any other member outside of public hearing.
So he cannot share those concerns?
I mean, as long as as soon as someone does anything that could be or it could be perceived as deliberation, we're done, and we violated open meeting. And that's where my conundrum comes for, because I think that we're doing too much good things, and I'm not trying to extend this meeting any longer, but we're doing too much good stuff. We have way too much going on right now to have what I'm considering as, funny optics with some things, and so that's my point. So yeah, I'm actually kind of asking for some guidance here, because I could either sit here and talk to you for an hour about my things, because I have drafted a letter. I can ignore it, which I'm not interested in doing, because I've spent a good, I think, 2 months, month and a half, trying to do it without bringing it to the public's attention. Or I can just...
So if you're looking for guidance, my suggestion would be, one, if you're comfortable, I know you have a drafted letter, if you're comfortable with that letter becoming a public document, then you're more than happy to share that document. Or my alternative action to that would be to either speak with the chair again or speak with Patty and figure out if we should maybe have another specific retreat. Obviously, it would still be public meeting.
Yeah.
It can be in her office at an unscheduled, normal business meeting time and discuss whatever we need to discuss. That would be, I would say, one of those two, but that's just my opinion as one of the members.
No, I value that. I wouldn't have asked if I didn't value everyone's opinion, that's for sure, so.
I mean, not knowing the contents, I would assume that this falls under operational effectiveness of the committee, and so if we need to schedule a retreat to work on improving the operational effectiveness of the committee, I think that falls within the guidelines.
Certainly should.
Interesting.
So
honestly,
I guess I don't. Does the items that you have fall within that guideline?
Well, to be honest, Don, you should know actually every single item in this letter.
Well, I can guess,
Yeah.
but I'm asking your opinion.
I mean, I don't think that I'm not any closer to making a decision than I was 3 days ago when I wrote the letter, or 2 hours before this meeting when I was deliberating over what I was going to do. Because I've tried multiple times to sit down and figure out the best possible way to get this information to the rest of the committee and express myself publicly to the committee. But I also, as you know, I'm not, again, I'm deliberate and I'm non-confrontational, and there's, I'm not a huge fan of airing dirty laundry, but you're almost cornered to do it because of the open meeting law restrictions that I can't go and talk to Chris now about things I already talked to Don about, and I guess we could if Krista didn't say anything and stood and stared at me, and but then as soon as you went, as soon as you went over and talked to Don about something, and, you guys made a decision, boom.
Yeah, we don't even want to test that.
Yeah. And although no one would probably ever know about that violation, contrary to popular belief, I care about that kind of stuff, and I have integrity, and I don't put myself into situations on purpose that are going to get someone in trouble.
So, my recommendation would be for us to have the superintendent try to reach out to each person to schedule a date in the near future when we can get everyone together for a retreat on operational effectiveness.
May I ask a question, Don?
Yeah.
What is your obligation as chair when a member comes to you with concerns? And do you feel like you can unilaterally address things that come to you? Or do you as chair have an obligation to then share those with the committee? Or, or in other words, are you kind of like a single point of contact and or, I don't know. Do you know what your obligation is?
Yeah, it depends upon the issue. If it affects if it's an issue that affects the entire committee, clearly I try to communicate that either through myself directly to every member or through the superintendent to every member.
And so since we were not provided with any information, or I can assume then that whatever was brought to you, you haven't done anything about?
The things that were brought to me have been discussed with the people affected.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's all unnatural. There's a very we're talking about we're supposed to be so open and transparent, and sometimes you just can't do it. So I'm trying to be very, very careful about the way we do this. So I'm going to step down, and I appreciate the time that you gave me for the floor, and I will provide my letter to Patty.
Very good.
In the initial time frame, and then if after discussion it's determined either by talking about it again at a meeting, because again I know we can't make any decisions on it outside the meeting, then we can do so. But I just I would be remiss to not again say that I have serious concern, and I need to figure out a way, the best way possible, and it may not be again in a public forum like this, to get that information to who it needs to get to. Thank you very much for your guys' time.
Can't say that I'm not intrigued.
I know, and yeah, I believe my intentions 2 hours ago were a little bit different. And to be honest with you, I am unwilling to rain on the Mashpee football team's parade.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. All right, is there anything else then?
Not for me.
No? All right.
Although.
No.
Looks at the clock.
10 minutes ahead.
Good stuff.
So hungry.
So there is no public comment. That's the next item. There's no public comment at the end of the meeting. So the last item would be I need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second? Motion by Nicole? And I will second, yes. Any discussion? None? Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes.